Today, I want to talk about the importance of personal development and scheduling personal development time during your normal work week. Now, that's a strange concept, isn't it? Should you be sitting there as a CEO in your office reading a book between 9 to 5, whatever your office hours are, for a couple hours every single week? And the question then is, what kind of precedent is that setting for everybody else on your team? And the answer that I have is absolutely. I absolutely encourage every single leader, CEO, C-suite, manager, whoever it is, to schedule personal development time during the week. It's something that I do. It's something that we get everybody that we work with to do in our programs. And the reason is this: it's because personal development is one of the key factors to high performance and human potential optimization. If you're not learning, if you're not growing, and you're not making it, more importantly, a priority, you're not going to be increasing your skill set and your performance at the same rate as someone who is actually prioritizing it. This is something I learned when I was in the corporate world. So I spent 14 years in the corporate world. I was an executive. And I was always the youngest, you could say, executive on the team. And it was interesting because I was an adamant learner. Like that's the one thing. And I've talked about this many times before, and you're going to hear this again and again and again. The number one skill set that I believe that every human being should focus on is the ability to learn. Because if you can learn how to learn, you can grow your skill set in any other field or expertise. It's that powerful. So I applied this principle when I was a young kid, and it's worked extremely well for me throughout my entire life, not only through the good times, but also through the challenging times, because whenever I come up with an issue or a challenge, whether it's business or personal, I always look at learning about the problem or the challenge or the potential solutions. And that enables me most of the time to get through those challenges a lot faster. So in the corporate world, I would spend a lot of time doing personal development, and even during work hours. While others, my colleagues, were not. A lot of my colleagues weren't even doing any personal development. And so let's talk about personal development. It could be things like optional courses, reading, whatever it may be. We're talking about stuff that is not mandated by your organization. Okay, so this is optional stuff that you do on your own. And I would read books to the point where if I saw a book on someone else's desk at the workplace, I would read it and finish it before they would. That's how fanatic I was about learning, because I wanted to have a skill set where I could have effective communication and conversations with other people around the boardroom table. And in order for me to do that, I not only needed to know what I knew, but I also had to have some kind of understanding of their area of expertise as well. I didn't need to have their depth of expertise. Okay, so that's not what I'm talking about. You can't be an expert in everything. It's just enough to be able to have a good conversation, okay, back and forth. So how much time should be scheduling? I believe that 2 hours is a minimum. And here's why. Think about it this way. 2 hours a week, and you just times it by 50 weeks, for example. Okay, that's 100 hours a year. And the average CEO or business leader works about 2,000 hours a year. Okay, so you're doing personal development. We're talking about optional personal development, 100 hours out of 2,000. That is 5% of the time. Okay, so you're doing personal development 5% of the time. Here's why this gets very important. There's a number of studies that have been done when it comes to how does someone become an expert level or a super high performer in their particular field. So if you're a CEO, how do you get to that level? Now, the interesting thing is it's not just hours of what they call deliberate practice, which means that you're actually taking time deliberately and intentionally to be precise in your practice. We're talking about the analogy that is used in sports or other performance, such as musicians or other types of athletes, for example, or high performance fields. Now, here's what's discovered. Just because you are practicing, so here's the main argument that most people give, most CEOs give. Hey, I'm a CEO 24/7, so I'm learning all the time. I'm practicing all the time. No, you are not doing what we call deliberate practice. And deliberate practice is sometimes slow. It's very intentional, requires a lot of self-reflection. And that is where you are fine-tuning your skills. That is the difference here. Personal development is about fine-tuning your skills. It's not about just going into the field and having that experience. the analogy, again, that I want to use because it's the easiest thing for people to understand is the highest performing players or teams or even military, for example. Here's the difference between corporations and the business world versus other high performance fields. In sports and in military, they are practicing and refining their skills 85 to 95% of the time. They're in the field or competing 5 to 15%. So they are far outpacing the business world when it comes to refining their skills and fine-tuning their skills. Now, the argument that is made is in the business world, you can't afford or you don't have the time to spend 85 to 95% practicing or personal development or refining your skills. I'm not saying doing that, but there's a big difference between 5% and 85%. That is a massive gap in terms of refining your skill set. So something that I've implemented in my entire life is always doing personal development. I do it on Fridays, and I spend at least a half a day doing personal development. I schedule it in because it's a priority for me. It is the most important thing because I'm getting better as a business leader. And I used to do this in the corporate world as well when I was there. In my own businesses, it's fine because I own the purse strings and I can say, yeah, we want people to get trained, and I'm a huge advocate for that. In the corporate world, it was a little bit tougher because the budget was always approved by others, for example, or the CFO, and then ultimately the CEO. And sometimes, and many times actually, the budget wasn't there. And that's the first thing that the most organizations cut or they skimp out on. And I was a huge advocate to say, no, we got to invest in our people. And my people, I always sent them to training and personal development. It's something that I highly encourage them to do. And in many cases, these teams outperformed other teams. So I'm going to come back to the importance here and what the practical implications are. 2 hours every week is a bare minimum. I highly encourage every person to do 2 to 5 hours of personal development during the work day or work week. Okay. And you might say, hey, that's impossible. I'm telling you, it's not impossible. It is absolutely possible because that's what people in our programs do. And when you do 5 hours, for example, of personal development, that's 20 hours a month, right? You're 240 now hours a year. Now you're at above the 10%. You're at roughly the 12% range. That is extremely powerful in the business world because that's how you grow your skills as a CEO or as a business leader faster than the other people around you. And if you want to be a successful person, and we're talking about you in your own career, you got to advance your skill set. That's the one thing that we haven't seen right now is that human capital is not increasing and improving at the same rate as technology. It's far being outpaced. And that's why we're actually creating a center around this. And so stay tuned for that because I'm extremely excited about this venture because I think it's going to be very powerful. So many people are focused on AI and I'm focused on human potential because I think we need to bring human potential up significantly rather than just leveraging or leaning on technology all the time. So let's sum it up. Schedule personal development time during the work week and you are going to increase your skill set and far outpace your competition because these hours add up. And over the course of 5 to 10 years, you are going to be a higher skilled CEO or business leader compared to other people in your field.